Hello and welcome to a brief introduction of some of the new exciting features in Lightwave 8. In this demo I'd like to show you an example of some of the new dynamics. In this case it's cloth dynamics, and what we have here is a couple collision objects that will pass and brush up against the skirt, and the skirt's going to react. Now that's something that you could have done in Motion Designer. I would argue that you couldn't have done it as easy as you can now with the new ClothFX. But what you couldn't do before that I'd like to show you is if I scrub the slider a little bit, now the dress is being torn away into a skirt. Now this scene is already set up, but what I'd like to do is show you how easy it is to set up something very similar to this, to basically have the cloth torn away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clear the scene, and let's load up an object to work with. And I've got one here, Sew Test. It's a simple object to work with, and let's take a look. Now, one of the things that I did with this object was in Modeler I made some selection point sets along the edge here, and I'm labeled them Fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Properties tab, and we've got a new tab here in Object Properties called Dynamics, and I'm going to click on that, and from the Add Dynamic drop down I'm going to go ahead and choose Cloth. Click on that so I can get my settings here, and under the Basic tab under Fix, which are the points that I want to lock in place, I'm going to choose the point set that I've labeled Fix. It just made it that much easier for me to find it. Okay, so those are going to be fixed in place. Now I need to set up some basic settings for the rest of the object so that I can have it react with the dynamics. So I'm going to come over and add gravity, and let's just add -9.8. Which someone told me one time that that's real world gravity, and so I've always used that. And I'm going to just use a preset right now. Let's go ahead and pick. We've got a few to pick from. I'm going to pick Cotton Thin, and then let's go ahead and calculate that. In the background, you see that the cloth, it falls down. The gravity is pulling those points down. Now, what I want to do is I want to sew those two pieces together, like you saw with the dress that was being torn away to reveal the skirt. Well, in this I'm going to sew those together. So I'm going to come over to the sewing tool. My mother would be so proud. I'm not sure what my father would think about that, but let's go ahead and go with this. So with the sewing tool, I'm going to left click this point, and I want to sew it to this point, so I'm going to right click this point and choose sewing right down here. And I'm just going to go down the row here and sew these points together. Okay, so I'm done sewing those. Let's recalculate to see, and as we see here, the points are sewn together. Now to take it a step further, I'm going to close this panel and load in. I want to cut these points now that they're sewn together. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and increase this to 120 frames so we have a little more to work with, and I'm going to, from the dynamic objects, I'm going to add a collision object. Now the one setting that I'm going to change, I'm going to leave it all default, but the one setting I'm going to change is the mode. Instead of having it set to bounce, I'm going to have it set to event, so that when this object becomes an event, and when the event object passes through the points, something will happen, and in this case we're going to want it to cut. So let's go ahead and close this down. I'm going to turn auto key off so that we can set our keyframes, and I'm going to start by raising this up out of the way, and I'm going to keyframe that at 0, and then I'm going to, let's see, I want to make sure that the cloth sags down enough so that we can see that in action, which is at 60. So at 60 I'm going to leave the collision object up there, and then I want it to pass through at 80. So I'm going to pass it through the object at 80. So our animation looks something like this. The cloth falls down, and then the collision object will pass through. Now all I need to do is tell ClothFX that I want something to happen when this event object passes through. Okay, so let's load up properties, come back over to where we did our sewing, okay, and we're on the link node 7, which is this one right up here that's linked to the node 27. And for event, I'm going to say cut by event. Okay, might be easier if we move over to frame 0 so that we can see down the list. I'm going to click on the sewing tool and it's going to jump us down to the next set, and I'm going to pick cut by event. Sewing tool again jumps us down, and I'm just going to go down to each one of those link nodes that we set up, and then I'm just going to kind of toggle through and make sure I've got all of them, and I do. So now let's go ahead and calculate. And there we go. Let's take a look. We have it fall down, the collision object passes through, and we get it cutting apart. Now, the other thing that I can do, I'll just show you one last thing and then we'll wrap this up. We have the edit tool. What the edit tool allows us to do, I'm going to go ahead and click on edit tool. It allows us to select each point. And now this line that you're seeing here, this curvy little line, that's the motion path for this point. And I can edit that. This saves tons of time for you because you can do a calculation, change the animation of each point to match exactly what you want without having to recalculate. Talk about a workflow enhancement. This has saved me lots of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look. Now I can move the entire point and its motion path, or I can get precise, and from this drop down it's set to all right now. I can edit the current frame and everything after it, the current frame and everything before it, or I can edit just the current frame. So if I want, I can go in and start editing, go to the next frame, edit, go to the next frame, edit, next frame, and I've just edited the path and I'm ready to go. I don't need to recalculate. I can just scrub through and see the animation change. So this is just a brief introduction of ClothFX. Stay tuned for more demos of Lightwave 8. We'll be creating some throughout the next couple weeks, and stay tuned. Thanks.